the MMA Roadshow, episode number 476. My name is John Morgan, and Cold Coffee is with me, not on the road this week. We did not make the trip to St. Louis. It is the MMA home show once again this week. But that's changing. We'll get into that soon. That's changing quite a bit. But one last week here in Vegas, kind of a blustery is the word that's jumping to mind here. A little cold in Vegas, a little unseasonably chilly in the air. Wind's blowing a little.
I like it.
I'm sure you got the door open out here. I had to go dig my hoodie back out of the closet that I thought I had retired for the summer.
You don't keep that far away from you. It's right now. It is 69. It says 69 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's warming up a little bit.
Yeah, it's supposed to get up to like in the 70s, I think, today, but. Dude, I love this. I mean, I think after that little scare where it started getting warm, where I felt like, oh my gosh, are we already done? Summer. Are we already done with it? And then to have it go back down, now I am fully embracing it. So yeah, I got the windows open, I got the door cracked. I was like, please let that air, cause it's coming.
Staff is letting the fresh air just roam through all the different wings.
Go through all the wings, take all the, you see all those big movies where you have like the sheets over all the extra furniture. I'm like,
picture
please
that. That's what's happening here right now.
They're dusting them out.
The Persian rugs are being aired over. It's pretty impressive to see.
Because next week we have 90s. It says it's going to be 93 on Sunday. So this is the end. Coming up soon.
This is the last little bit of spring.
Yeah.
Did you see, though, it has been crazy. Did you see they canceled a big outdoor music festival?
And people were pissy about it, but I don't know if you remember, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a few years back, maybe a little bit more, where they actually had a festival where speaker systems collapsed because of high wind.
Here?
And I don't know if it was Vegas,
okay.
but it was somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
And people got hurt. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's reasons why big promotions take on $1 million policies, for this sort of thing, because it's just dangerous. But it would be reckless for them to do that sort of thing, because no matter how much insurance money you might get, if you lose a loved one because they went on with the show and you got to see your band, it's just not worth it. I mean, and especially here in Vegas, the wind gust gets crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just hits differently. Like you'll see wind gusts that say they're 20, 25 miles an hour, and you think, oh, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. When there's nothing blocking a big gust of 20, 25 miles and more, it really pushes through.
I think it was getting up to like 50 that day.
It was getting way up there.
It was called the Lovers and Friends Festivals. It was like, dude, they were like $500 tickets. It was like a huge lineup.
Yeah.
I just wonder what happens to, you talk about insurance and stuff for, if an accident happens.
Yeah.
I wonder what happens. Do you think they have some kind of insurance policy for if adverse weather cancels it,
probably,
like covering your costs or something? Because
it's not like they
probably
just sat on that money, waiting to pay out their bills. They take that money in and they're paying their artists, they're paying vendors, they're paying whatever.
There has to be some kind of insurance in place, right?
Because
if you got to give all that ticket revenue back, like somehow you got to reclaim
That's
it.
why all of our insurance policies are going up, because of things like that. Taking all of our money. Did your insurance policy go up?
Oh, bro, I don't even want to talk about insurance, man.
It's sick. Mine went up like $30-some, 30, and I don't know what that percentage. I'd have to do it, but I've seen it was across the board, anywhere from like 15 to 20-some% increase.
Bro, I had been waiting like 5 months to get a new primary care physician because my old one took his practice private. Took his practice private, right? So he wasn't part of the network anymore. So I had to find a new primary care physician. Found one, and they were like, yeah, it'll be like 5 months before we can get you in as a new patient. I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, I get in, and the dude was like, all right, man, well, your numbers look okay. Everything's fine. He's like, but you are getting to a certain age now. There are certain sets of tests and things that need to be done. So I'm going to refer you out to some specialists, and we can start a track record of you getting, some of these specific tests done or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I get it. I get it. I'm getting older.
Yeah.
I never go to the doctor. I probably need to start taking care of myself a little bit. So anyway, I go to see one of these specialists, and I go for a visit, and I'm like, man, they didn't tell me like anything I need to know or do. I'm like, so why not? Actually, I get there on the day. Yep. They come in there, take my information, go through all the height, weight, blood pressure, all that stuff real quick. All the same stuff that my primary care physician had just done.
Sure.
And then they're like, all right, well, we'll get back with you and schedule your appointment for the test. That'll be $85, please, for your copay today. I'm like, You could have done that over the phone. Like, you made me come in and do an office visit and pay a specialist visit of $85 to essentially just check me into the system and schedule my test for later. I'm like, bro,
that's brutal.
Bro, the healthcare system. And it's all the people at Lovers and Friends' fault, the festival. It's their problem.
That's it. I mean, it is crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I think, because I was reading somewhere about California rates went up because of a lot of the fires and other little stuff. But I mean, it's so bad. It's so bad. But yeah, I forget what got me started on that.
Is it healthcare worse, or is gas prices bothering you worse, or is food prices?
Well, and it wasn't. Mine was just car insurance. My car insurance went up like 20%, like 19-20%. That's the one I went up like 30 some bucks or something.
Oh, but I don't think my policy is up for renewal for another couple months. So great. So now I got that to look out for.
I know.
Sweet.
Brutal. Yeah, so I literally was like starting to go through the penny pinching. I was like, what service do I have that I don't need to make up for the adjustment that's going to be in this, So
life is fun right now, isn't it?
I'm telling you. They're like, you want to live out in Las Vegas? Yes, it used to be cheap and it used to be fun. And now it's like, what are we doing?
It's not cheap anymore. It's funny. Yeah, when I first moved out here, I would tell people, like, bro, you should come out here. It's cheap. Now I would still tell you, come out here. Like, it's a fun place to live.
It's a fun place to live.
Like, I'm never leaving the city. I love it. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's cheap anymore.
It's not cheap anymore.
I don't think any place is cheap anymore, though.
That's true. Because I remember there was points where I was looking. There was a job open at Ohio State, and I was like, "Oh, this would be great." It was with the theater department. My old professors and mentors were like, "Please come, take it." It would have been a pay cut, and then I was like, "Well, maybe that'll work." I mean, let me look at the cost of houses around there. Brutal. They were up as well, and I was like, can't move back. Spend thousands of dollars to move back to take a pay cut to pay just as much or more to live there. I was like, sorry, C-Bus, I will not be taking that job, but it's crazy. But I think you're right. I think it's everywhere, costs are just up, so I just tell people, just hunker down, find ways to enjoy your current situation as best you can and enjoy what you have because, just be grateful. And that's why I try to tell myself, just be grateful. Just be grateful.
It sounds like you're accomplishing it.
Well, it's a process. It's a process.
Well, speaking of big Las Vegas news, how about the biggest news of all that we can talk about? I mean, there's a number of big events coming up in Las Vegas. You may have heard that Conor McGregor is returning to fight.
Is that so?
That's going to be happening later this year. That's a big event here for Las Vegas.
That's a big one.
Part of International Fight Week. You may have heard, of course, that the Sphere is set to host a UFC event later this year as well. Yes, I know. You may have heard that. Of course, that will be a big event as well.
I hear that place is pretty cool.
Sphere is pretty cool, so that's a big one. But the real big news, next April, Allegiant Stadium, WrestleMania 41. Let's go.
I wonder if they're going to open up the credentials to everybody, or if it's like, how's that going to work out? Like, I'm wondering if like the UFC will help with that whole thing, like putting stuff out. I would hope.
Yeah, they'd have to.
I would hope, because I know they even didn't they talk about doing an event at the Apex?
So they're doing an NXT event, which is like the developmental league. I think that's happening.
That's all part of the same organization, though, right?
Yeah, it's called WWE NXT. Not like I'm some expert about it, but I did see the press release.
You sound like it. Go on.
Look, I know a guy that should be headlining WrestleMania 41. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know how things will evolve over the next year or so. But man, dude, I'm telling you, I had such a blast watching CM Punk at the AEW show at T-Mobile. I got my fingers crossed right now. I'm knocking on wood.
Yeah.
I mean, see him at Allegiant Stadium would be cool.
Banged up though, right?
He's healing though. He said he's good. I think they're just being extra cautious to make sure he's good to go.
Because he fixed the arm and then it was the same arm, right?
Yeah. No. So
it would be very, very cool to see it. It would be cool to see.
I would love to see him at Allegiant Stadium, man. That would be super cool. So anyway,
that'd be a nice, at least if his body is going to get to the point where it's going to be fighting him to keep doing this, it would be good to get one killer, just memorable show. It'd be amazing to cap a career. You know what I'm saying?
And I think I read that he's never headlined a WrestleMania. That he's just he's
always been a big part.
He's been a big part of it. He's never headlined. I don't think.
So what is the headline? Like the final match?
Yeah. Well, like a main event, like anything else. You know what I mean? But so we'll see. But maybe I don't know. Then they do things like they bring The Rock back or whatever this year. But so anyway,
that was kind of cool. I actually watched that.
That was cool.
I mean,
look, this WrestleMania. This was the first WrestleMania I ever watched in my life because when Punk went to WWE, they were simultaneously doing that Peacock thing where if you sign up for like a year for Peacock, it was like $10 or something, right?
Yeah.
So it was nothing. So I was like, I'll do that just so I could see what Punk's up to. And so then it came time for WrestleMania, and I was like, well, he was going to be commentating, but since he wasn't going to be like, wrestling, I was like, well, I'm not going to buy a pay-per-view to hear him commentate. Like, love you, Punk, but I'm not going to,
not that big of a fan of wrestling.
Yeah. But then it was free. Like, it was free with Peacock. So I actually watched a lot of it. I didn't watch the first night because I think I was either commentating or we were at a UFC event or something. But I watched the second night.
Yeah.
It was the first one I'd ever watched.
That's
first
cool.
WrestleMania. It is
They're
big.
Interesting. Yeah,
It is over the top.
Yeah, like the fans get really, really crazy, and the spectacle part of it is amazing.
I loved it. Loved it. So I'm tentatively writing it. I'm penciling it in my calendar. Look, I mean that's a long way away. We'll see how. I hope Punk's in the main event. I just hope he's there. Period.
Yeah.
But if so, that'll be my.
I'm telling you though,
first one.
After like working the shows that we've done with our professional wrestling ladies that do the thing, when you see people that do it at a high level and how physical and how good that they are and how crazy and they push their bodies, it's hard to not admire what they're doing.
Yep.
As much as people say, oh, it's scripted, it's whatever. Dude, I could barely remember 2 lines of a show, let alone, like all the movements and everything they do. And I'm sure there's some things that they call. There's an art to like the call that when they're doing it while it's happening. But when you watch some of these big ones like New Japan, I remember they do some crazy long fights
we watched
as well.
a couple of those on TV back
it was
in
like
the day.
30 or 45 minutes. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, you have to admire the physicality and just the showmanship. And it's one thing of, what they're willing to put their bodies, but when dudes are like doing flips off the turnbuckle into a guy that's then driving into a table off to the side,
crazy.
Like it's dangerous, it's exciting. And you can't help but just, admire what it is. So, like I'm not finding myself watching the Monday nights and doing whatever, but when I do catch some of the shows, I'm always amazed by the people that are at the top of the field in WWE and these cats, man. They're definitely at the top of the field, man. It's pretty amazing.
I'd love to see it. I've got it on my calendar for next year, so I'm hoping to. Yeah, it's funny. I used to be very defensive, but it was because when I was coming up, like it was still the era where people like, well, I know wrestling is fake. Is this MMA stuff fake? And you're like, I mean, it's the whole reason the UFC had to adopt the line as real as it gets. It's like, no, these are real fights. Like we're well beyond that now. Like I don't think I've anybody heard. I mean, you still hear the occasional weird conspiracy theory where like he threw that fight. Like shut up.
You're gonna have those sort of things.
But now that I don't feel as defensive anymore about it, I feel like I'm embracing it. And obviously, like I said, I don't watch a lot of it either, but I will watch my man CM Punk. So. I'm hoping he's on there. I was excited to see because it was between here and Minneapolis, I think they were saying.
Oh,
and
please.
God, Vegas, baby.
Please. Minneapolis is cool and all, but, man, it ain't Vegas.
It's not Vegas.
Like, come on.
It's not Vegas. All right, well, we've got 11 months until that show, so we'll talk plenty about that in the build-up of this. Real quick, UFC 301, I feel like the world is moving on pretty quickly from UFC 301. I will say I felt it was a better show than I think everybody was anticipating on paper. So I guess I wanted to ask you just quickly, what do you think your lasting memory when somebody mentions, oh, remember that 301 in Rio down in Brazil? Is it Usyk? Is it Pantoja? Is it Aldo returning? Is it maybe Anthony Smith, the old dog, pulling out the trick?
That was a big one. That was a big one. I mean, Aldo, I think for me, I mean, as much as I thought the main event was great, I know a lot of people were like, oh, did Usyk, drop the bag? Did he make mistakes? Was his game plan not great? Whatever. Pantoja went out there and did what I thought he did. I thought that main event kind of played out how I thought it would. I thought if anything, maybe Usyk would have bigger moments to kind of challenge Pantoja. Maybe really push him and test him, and I didn't really feel that he was ever at the point that I felt that Pantoja was like risking losing it. I felt like he was in pretty good control the whole time. But the Aldo fight was just, maybe it was because I was coming off of that fight going into it, because it was just such a dominant display of what we knew. It was like vintage Aldo that I think everybody was, I know I personally was so elated after watching it. I was literally like on cloud nine. I was so happy for the dude.
I was gutted for Jonathan Martinez.
Oh, 100%.
Because you could see how emotional he was.
Yeah.
Like I think he knew that he was flat and he didn't perform very well. But
that's
I'm like
Brazil, man. does it. One, the heat, it's crazy hot down there, even though I don't remember the commentators talking too much about it. Normally when you would see them when it's real bad, they're literally dripping sweat. You see sweat stains coming through.
Yep.
I didn't feel like it was as bad as it has it been in the past, but you knew it was affecting people. And there's just something about going down there, getting caught up, and just caught up in the emotion. I was figuring that something like that would play out. I didn't think he would show up as I don't even really want to call it flat. I think it was just a matter of Jose was able to kind of just get his thing going, that he just sort of overwhelmed and he just never got going. He just never was able to kind of do his thing. But I just attributed the fact that Jose just did what I knew he could do.
Yeah.
It was weird when I watched every footage clip of him hitting mitts and stuff beforehand. He looked slow. He looked old. It reminded me of how in post thinking about it, when people were watching Francis hit mitts before he went to go fight Fury.
Right.
People were like, is he sandbagging a little bit? Is he holding back?
Right.
And I remember watching like the Jose footage and I was like, man, he looks rough. And then part of me was like,
uh-oh.
Is this real? Like he looks like they caught him on day one of him going back, because when you watched him in the ring, none of that was there.
Right.
He flowed effortlessly. I was so amazed. I was like, holy cow. Now you got people like, is it time for him to hang up? Does he really want to try to fight again? Should he go to karate? Should he go, karate combat? Should he go to boxing? Should he do whatever? A lot of people are like, does he have another run in him? So I was so amazed by that, that I would probably say out of all the fights, the one that I can't not think about is that one. Anthony Smith, like you said, I thought Vitor was going to go in there and just Hulk smash and do his thing.
Did too.
And Anthony, he was a smart guy, man.
Yep.
He just did what he does, man. And I gotta give him credit, man. Dude pulls him out when nobody thinks he can. Yep. I don't think anybody on the MMA Junkie staff picked him.
Wow.
And last time that happened, I remember being in the back room, and he's like, "Is anybody here from Junkie?" He's like, "What's up? Why can't none of y'all pick me?" And I was thinking like, oh, thank God I'm not there in Rio, because we'd hear it. But I don't think we were alone in that sentiment.
No.
I think most people were thinking that he was
too.
probably gonna, lose that one. And it just goes to show. Like you think a guy has taken a step back. You think he's gotten slow. You think maybe he's lost his step, and he says, "Hey, all right, you give me the toughest dude that you have, the biggest, scariest dude, and watch what I'm gonna do to him." And does it in the fashion that he wants to. He was able to get into a submission and got the guillotine choke. It was fantastic. And I think if you go down the card and you look at so it starts off with some decisions. You got the TKO here and there, but going on from that point, the Brazilians, Borraio, Brito, Michel Pereira, holy cow, that fight was
amazing,
ridiculous. It was just this.
Kyle Borraio was amazing, as you said. Michel Pereira looked amazing.
Sick.
Mauricio Rufy down on the prelims looked insanely good.
Lucindu.
So here, to me, I tend to agree with you. Right now, Jose Aldo's return, it will be when I think 301. I'll think Jose Aldo, right? But I'm interested to see over time, because Steve Erceg, I feel like, is like that fight is going to do one of two things, right? Because look, he was so close. He was one round, potentially one tactical mistake away from winning that fight and becoming a champ. And I feel like that's either going to be a moment that we think that broke him, you know what I mean? Because he had that opportunity and it crushed him, and because you could see his emotion and all that. Or, and I tend to think it's this one, that's going to be the moment where that guy was kind of galvanized and said, man, I got rushed this opportunity, but I was so close, and it made me realize what I'm capable of and what I can do. And I think he's going to be a force in division for some time to come. So it'll be interesting to see, because right now it's definitely Aldo, and I'll never not think about Aldo. Again, my whole regret in not going, down there was not getting a chance to see Aldo.
To see his last one.
But
it was like a Cinderella story.
But now it looks like there's going to be more.
Who knows?
So we'll
it's
see.
definitely a Cinderella story moment. Yep. It couldn't have been any better. I think it would have. I think on the flip side, if he would have got down there and got handed to him and he just got beat up, I think we would have all left feeling like, oh, the sad thing I'm going to always remember about 301 is Aldo getting beat up in Rio. Now. Luckily, we have the better side of it. We get to think about it and think about how he looked better than ever, like the vintage Aldo that we knew it could be there, it was a great event. I was bummed to not be down there, but, man, I'm telling you, Brazilian, that's why whenever I pick Brazilian cards, down in Brazil, like big events like this, like if you're a betting person, if you would have parlayed for the most part all the Brazilians on a card, you would have made some mad money. They only lost in one instance.
Crazy. Yeah, we said it. We thought
Petrina, twice. Mictebek or the holy cow.
Yeah.
That was a fun fight. So Brenner lost and Petrina lost.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm telling you,
Good night for Brazil that night.
Good night for Brazil.
Good night for Brazil. Yeah, it was funny. I was so regretful that I didn't go until Sunday, and then I was okay that I didn't go. It's that travel home.
100%.
And actually got to go hang out with my kid a little bit, and I'll give him a shout out, man. He was putting some charity work in this past Sunday. It was kind of cool to see, man. The kid's got a good heart, man. I'm a proud papa.
There you go.
That he did some things. All right, listen. UFC is in St. Louis this week. Again, neither of us made the trip to that. But for me, this is the last week at home for a crazy. Check out this run. I didn't even realize I had all this stuff going on. Next week I'm going to Belgium to call Apollo MMA 1 with Simon Head, so I'm looking forward to that. A new organization that's kind of reforming and relaunching over in Belgium. Of course, I called their last event when it was still under the Bushido MMA banner, but they're rebranding and relaunching, and I get to work with Simon Head, so that'll be fun.
Yes.
Following week, Fury Professional Grappling 10 in Philadelphia. Following week, UFC 302 in New Jersey. Obviously, I won't be calling that, but I'll be out there enjoying the festivities in Newark, New Jersey. Then the following week after that, flying to Canada for a Fight League Atlantic 15 in Halifax. Actually get to see my man Chris Kalidas, who I've called fights with, is basically having his retirement fight. He's stepping into the cage. He was called out at a recent event, and he's like, you know what? I'll get in there with you. So he's not going to be on the mic. He's going to be in the cage fighting. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then the following week after that, back in Philadelphia for CFFC 132 and CFFC Muay Thai 2 on back-to-back nights at the 2300 Arena. So, man, enjoying this week at home, and then 5 straight weeks on the road. So
busy.
Gonna be fun. I'm bummed because I don't think I'm gonna make it back from Canada in time. We were talking about that WWE NXT event at the Apex.
Yep.
I kind of want to just go see it, like just to go. I think Shayna Baszler's in that organization. I think she's in NXT.
I think so.
I think she's still there.
It'll be interesting to see how they deck that place out.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see.
Like, how are you going to do the big walkouts? You know, like I could see them doing from the side things. Maybe they're going to try to still do it from that center column. Or maybe they kind of got away from the center column. Center column, I guess, is just really for Dana White Contender Series because they still bring them out from that one side for the other ones. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see because it's not a big space. It looks bigger, I think, on TV sometimes when they do the angles. It looks bigger than what it is because the room is not very big.
Not a massive space.
It's not at all.
Not a massive space. But I think my flights, because flying from the East Coast of Canada, you got to take a couple connections. So I don't think I'm going to make it back in time. But if I do, maybe I'll go straight from the airport and try to catch the tail end of it or something. I got to look at it. But all right, listen. While we are at home this week, I did say that I wanted to start doing some more interviews again. I've been kind of deciding and mapping out and figuring out how I want to do things moving forward. And I decided I want to jump back into some interviews again. I'll also be doing some interviews as well over with Grind City Media. So I'll be doing some here, some with Grind City Media as well. But
traitor.
Hey, listen, bro, I'm out there grinding, son.
You're grinding in the city.
I'm out there grinding with Grind City Media. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a perfect fit. It's a perfect fit. So I'm actually launching an interview series with them as well. So if you had a chance to check out the podcast over there with Eric McMahon, you can also check out some interviews as well. But I did have a chance before I came over here today to talk to PFL CEO Peter Murray, who we talk some PFL, but we talk a lot of Bellator as well because Bellator Champions Series is coming up on Friday, May the 17th. Big main events there with Patchy Mix and Magomedov. Peter Murray gave me a little bit of his time to get caught up on all things PFL and Bellator, and so I figured I'd bring that to you here. And so sit back, relax, and here's that conversation. It is PFL CEO Peter Murray, who is a busy man running not just one, but 2 top international MMA promotions. So, Pete, before we get into everything that's happening, I realize I need to clarify. Are you the Bellator CEO as well by default? I don't think I've actually clarified those job titles with you.
Hey, we're the Professional Fighters League, and we're proud to have Bellator in our portfolio as a major franchise. So I'm proud to, support the team, including, Mike Hogan on the fighter side and the great team who came over with the acquisition, and of course the fighters. Our roster now is second to none.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, normally when we talk PFL, and we'll get to some of that, but it's Bellator that's taking center stage right now. PFL comes back in June, but it's the Bellator Champions Series Friday, May 17th in Paris, France. And first, I kind of just want to ask you about Paris. It's the first of 2 visits for Bellator to Paris this year. PFL Europe is going there frequently as well, so I'm just curious how this became such a big market, or maybe it's just like an excuse for you to expense a couple of trips to France every year, huh?
No, hey, we love France, we love Paris. It's one of the great cities in the world, but candidly, Europe is a growth market for MMA, for the PFL overall, and France, is one of the top markets and countries where there's amazing demand. And, it was legalized not too long ago, relatively speaking. And it's such a diverse fan base. They love the sport, and they love the PFL. They're showing up. I mean, our first event in France last year, which was the PFL Europe inaugural season, our third event, our playoff event last year, we were the most viewed MMA event in French television history. And that was not with a pay-per-view, card. That was not with the PFL Global Season card. That was with a PFL Europe card. And it really just illustrated to us last year how much opportunity there is in Europe, and specifically in France. There's an underserved fan base, and they want access to top competition, great fighters, and great events. So we've tripled down this year, on France. And, our last event was just the PFL Europe. We opened up the PFL Europe season, last month, or it's now in March, a month and a half ago. And huge. I mean, it was the highest attended MMA event at our core arena, 16,000 people. We broke all the records. And so, once again, with the PFL Europe product and a customized product. I mean, we had Cedric Doumbé, he debuted, and there was, amazing reaction, to him, and there was some drama and some controversy, and now we're bringing it back with Bellator. So we're excited about Bellator, who has history in Europe, history in France, and we're bringing it back with the Bellator Champions Series for our third event, this year. And candidly, we'll go back to France 2 more times, to Paris 1 more time after the Olympics, and then we haven't announced where the PFL Europe Championship will be held, but I'm confident it will be France. It may not be in Paris, but it will be in France.
Amazing, amazing. French fans have a lot to look forward to. So, as you said, Bellator, this upcoming event, Friday, May 17th, heck of a main event. Patchy Mix, Magomedov, 19-1 versus 20-3. I mean, this is a world-class matchup under any banner, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's PFL, Bellator, any brand you have. These are 2 of the absolute best in the world. So what are your thoughts on this one as your main event?
Yeah, well, listen, this is an amazing rematch. I mean, you got, Patchy's 19-1, Magomed, he's 20 wins, 3 losses. I mean, this is a rematch. I mean, a lot of talk that Patchy may very well be the best bantamweight in the world. But, in the end, it's going to be a battle. These 2, this is a real fight, and, top of the card. So we're really excited to see, this as, top of the card.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You touched on it with Patchy. I mean, obviously, I know you're promoting both these athletes in the main event, so you're not going to favor one over the other. But you said it, Patchy Mix. A lot of people think he's the best bantamweight in the world right now. So where do you stand on that claim? I mean, do you back him as the best 135-pounder on the planet right now?
Listen, if he's not he's certainly top one of. And I think the excitement is around Patchy, but Maga, he is the real deal. He is the real deal. We've seen what he can do. So, once again, I do think this is anybody's fight.
Yeah, I do too. I'm really excited for this fight. Now, you touched on this too. It's a key rematch, and I think this is one that probably needed to happen, and it's exciting. But I have seen some rumblings around that. Hey, maybe there's too many rematches under the Bellator banner. You know, you've got this fresh roster of guys. They're supposed to be fluid, and we can bring them back and forth. I mean, I guess have you guys had that discussion in the matchmaking room? Like, are there maybe too many rematches? Are we potentially, do we need to look more frequently at doing fresh matchups rather than revisiting a lot of these fights the way we currently are?
Yeah, no, listen, it's always a conversation with the fighter ops team and matchmaking. But like for this particular event, and with the reigning champions, we thought, fans would really like to see certain fighters and revisit these matchups. But I think it's all about striking the right balance, and we have plenty of fights where obviously they're not rematches, and but it's something we always look into, we always talk about. But also on this card, we are bringing Cedric back, and there's a lot of conversation, around Cedric overall, as a world-class kickboxer from, the European French market and scene. And now he's having an opportunity to, flex a little in MMA, show what he can do. And, he's going to fight, an American opponent, Jaleel, who's, very, very seasoned. So, and I think we're going to see the best from Jaleel in this fight. And we'll see what kind of skills Cedric has in terms of how he's expanded some of his MMA capability.
Yeah, that should be a fantastic co-main event as well. It's funny because I'm talking about rematches. I actually thought Cedric Doumbé would be in a rematch, right? I mean, given the weirdness of the Bakhichev Sudanov fight that happened last time out, I mean, I love this fight. Like, I'm not putting down this fight at all with Jaleel Willis, but I think this is going to be fireworks. But
yeah, listen, I would have liked to. I think everybody would like to see that rematch. And candidly, I'm not sure if Batchy, was he clearly wasn't down for it. He went the other way. He had the opportunity to get the fight of his life in, as far as we're concerned, and he shied away from it. But that was his decision, not ours.
Okay, all right. I was curious about that. Well, like you said, you came up with a great one here. This is a real test for Cedric. I mean, you talked about his kickboxing abilities, but Cedric gets through Jaleel Willis. What do you see as his path? Because it seems like there's so many options. I mean, is he a potential PFL season guy? Is he a potential Bellator title fighter? I mean, what do you see for Cedric Doumbé if he impresses once again?
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, Cedric's on his journey, and can he compete potentially in the global season today? Yeah. But, I think, from a overall development standpoint, he's competing at a very high level. He's showing us a lot. We really wanted to use this year to sort of have him flex in terms of show us his range, and he'll have a range of opponents, and he'll be challenged. And then it's really then, what does he accomplish this year, and what does it set him up for next year? And what I could tell you in terms of what's next, I mean, we're really interested to see, the matchup. I mean, Jaleel and Cedric. Cedric's a bit of a phenom in our view. We'll see what he's going to bring. But the next test for him could very well be fighting Anthony Pettis. Pettis wants to fight. And so and Anthony, I was talking to him just the other day. He said, he may come over to Paris to the show to see in person what this kid is all about. And Anthony's sizing him up. He wants to fight. So more to come there.
I love that. And credit to Cedric Doumbé, man. He's not taking the easy path at all. So, again, Friday, May 17th, it's streaming on Max, formerly known as HBO Max. I'm actually a fan of Max. I actually watch a lot of their programming. I loved when you guys signed this deal. So I'm just curious, I guess, what's the initial feedback like? The partnership, how's it going? And is that potentially a long-term home for Bellator? Because I think it's just for the 2024 season this far, correct?
Well, listen, you've been in this game a long time, John, and to have WBD, HBO Max in the MMA game, really says something about where the sport is. I mean, it's mainstream, it's global, and, the HBO Max leadership partnering with Professional Fighters League and specifically the Bellator franchise, I think speaks volumes about A, where the sport is, B, where Professional Fighters League is, and the stature of Bellator as a global, property. and the interest to get behind this great franchise. So we're really excited about the partnership, and just event one under our belts. The results were great, and we had a bit of a giddy up offense to go to market and promote. So our teams are all respectively dialed in now, and we're in growth mode. With HBO Max. So more to come on those details.
I love it, man. I love it. It's a platform I use a lot, so I was happy to see you guys land there. So, all right, I want to ask you a couple of things, just kind of general stuff outside of May 17th. Chris Cyborg, we know, was supposed to box recently. That didn't happen. I guess, what updates can you give us? Because she's basically announced that she's fighting Larissa Pacheco, and I just want to see, is that officially official? And if so, when and where is that fight taking place?
We haven't announced the date or the location, but that is the next fight for both of those two athletes. And, they've both been, informed, and that's the fight that, fans want, and that both athletes are gearing up for. And we'll be announcing the details of that super fight event in terms of timing and location. It'll be after the summer. And, we're excited. I mean, to have Chris Cyborg as part of the company on this roster, and to get behind her in this chapter of her career. And she is, a champion, one of the best. And we're really excited for her to debut candidly with the Professional Fighters League, and continuing the journey with Bellator, but fighting an incredible opponent in Larissa Pacheco, a two-time PFL champion, two different weight classes. She has something to prove. She gets better, each time or each season. And that's a real fight. That's a real fight.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I cannot wait for that one. All right. Gegard Mousasi did an interview recently. Kind of said he's a little frustrated. He's not sure his contract is going to be honored. So I guess, is there any updates on Gegard and kind of where he stands, and if he'll fight for the PFL or Bellator, and just what is the communication there?
Yeah, I mean, listen, ongoing conversations. I mean, on Mousasi, there's, always a conversation around, when a fighter should fight and who the opponent should be. And, at times there's, differing of opinions and interpretations, but he's a great fighter. We're happy to have him, on the roster. And, our job and the job of the fighter ops team is to, align our goals with the fighter goals and solve for it. And we'll see if that gets done.
I wanted to ask you about Sabah Homasi as well. That kind of sounds like a weird situation, right? I mean, it seems like maybe the timing was just kind of odd, and I know how these medical situations work, and candidly, not to go down the road of healthcare in America these days, but I guess the primary question is he being taken care of? I know there was some concern that Sabah Homasi, if those medical bills would be taken care of.
Yeah, no, hey, I mean, we have such a ton of respect for Homasi, and he's in contact with our fighter ops team, Mike Hogan and team, and just dealing with what fighters have to deal with and managing their career, and certain setbacks, and so we're in touch with him through that team.
Awesome. Okay, I appreciate it, and I did want to ask you about Francis Ngannou. I mean, unimaginable what he's going through right now, and this certainly goes well beyond the fight game. I imagine he's keeping things private, but I just want to know. I think I just think everybody wants to check on his well-being, right? I mean, as a man, have you had a chance to speak with him directly? And I mean, like I said, I'm not even thinking about a fighting career right now. I'm just thinking about the man himself. Have you gotten a chance to see how he's doing?
No, Francis is he's a friend. He's a partner, and he's a brother, and tragic loss, for Francis and his family, and we're supporting him the best we can, through that process. And yes, we've been in contact one-on-one, and I can't comment any further. It's just simply tragic, and Francis has shared on his channels his heavy heart and the whole. And it's just tragic. No parent should have to go through that, and we feel for him.
Yeah, unimaginable, man, unimaginable. I think everybody hopes for the best for him. So, all right, listen, tough to transition from that, but obviously the schedule rolls on. So, PFL again, as I said, back in June. Bellator, center stage, Friday, May 17th in Paris. If you want to attend live, it's there in Paris. If you want to stream it, it's going to be on Max. So, Pete, always appreciate the time. Any other things that we need to know about with either of these organizations and promotions? I mean, it seems like there's always something new going on. I know you got PFL MENA coming up. I mean,
yeah, that was it, man. That was it. No, we're pumped about going back to Paris. Like I said, we're candidly triple downing on France and Paris. As we said, it's going to be a great show a week from this Friday night. But this Friday night, we will be in Riyadh, the new fight capital of the world, launching our second international league, PFL MENA, the best of Middle East fighters coming together, competing under the PFL, banner, the signature format, regular season playoff championship. And we launched our second, international league. So we're super stoked. And the team's already on the ground in Riyadh. It'll be a packed house. We'll be distributing PFL MENA, throughout the Middle East on MVC, which is the leading media network there with entertainment and growing sports platform, widely distributed. So we're really excited. And this is the next piece, PFL MENA. We have PFL Europe. Now we have PFL MENA. That's the next piece to building the Champions League of MMA. And what's to drop next is PFL Africa, PFL Australia in 2025. And then 26, PFL LATAM, PFL Asia, putting all those pieces together to really ladder up to that Champions League of MMA. So it's been fun to, build it from the ground up with an incredible ownership group, great management team, and strategic partners around the world who believe in MMA as the growth sport, mainstream today. And we know what we're solving for. These athletes regionally around the world have the capability to compete at the highest level, but the organizations locally can't support them at the level we can, and we have that capability. So, we're first solving for advancing, growing the sport of MMA and supporting athletes in different parts of the world at different stages of their pro career to compete, on top, against top competition consistently, our format, and on major media platforms. So in PFL MENA on NBC, but that content is distributed around the world. So they're global platforms. So it's really exciting to have the privilege to build this.
Yeah, look, I've told you from the beginning, and I'll say it again, an incredible amount of work building multiple leagues around the world. But honestly, I do think it's so great for the sport because, I mean, you see it in Europe. You're delivering content to fans in prime time, right? I mean, it just allows for more people to really gravitate to the sport, to learn the sport, to become passionate about the sport. And again, as you said, those athletes within the market, they're getting real opportunities to get on the global stage as well. So it's pretty cool to see what you guys have built and continue on the path because, man, when you first said it, I told you it's a massive undertaking, but, man, you guys have knocked off every step along the way.
And more to come. So it's been fun, highly rewarding, really challenging. But, like I said, we know what we're building. We know what we're solving for. And it's all good. And in the end, the fans win because they're massively underserved in MMA. The last stat we had is 460 million. Was that right? I'm sorry. Yeah, 460 million. 80% of that fan base outside the U.S. So it's massive.
Incredible. Well, Pete, I know you're a busy man, so I'll let you get back to it. I know you got some traveling to do, so I'll just say thank you for the time as always, and we'll be watching all the upcoming events.
All right, Coach. Thanks, John. Really appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
All right, first things first. I'm pretty sure he called me coach at the end. I don't know if I'm not sure if that was like chief or buddy, or if he thought I was like Jonathan Coachman for a second and got the names mixed up there. But anyway, I got a kick out of that. I was like, did he just? But then he was already gone. I'm like, I didn't even know what to say. But Bellator Champions Series Paris, Friday, May the 17th. It's funny because in everything that we were talking about, I had totally forgot that the PFL MENA, of course, the Middle East and Northern Africa, was debuting this week. I had completely forgotten about it because they haven't really talked about it a lot in the I guess the international media. But realistically, I guess that's kind of the point of it, right? Is that you have the localized content for those people. It doesn't really need to be, pressed everywhere and trying to get everybody to buy in. I mean, you think about some of the buzzwords that he threw in there, the underserved audience, the customized product that he's talking about. So in one way, I felt kind of guilty because I'm very I really, honestly, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I believe their biggest opportunities are with these international leagues to deliver prime time entertainment live to these different regional audiences with these fighters from their regions. I think this is where PFL can really, really be successful. This can be their differentiator. So on the one hand, I felt bad that I'd kind of forgotten that PFL MENA was starting this week. But on the other hand, I guess that's kind of the point of it. And that stat that he threw in at the end there just really, I feel like it so shadows what you and I have talked about a lot of time here, especially when we were traveling a lot more internationally. But he says we know what we're solving for. There's 460 million MMA fans worldwide, and 80% of that is outside the United States, right? And we've said that, I think, time and time again, is that wherever you feel the growth plateau is for mixed martial arts in the United States, don't forget that there's a big-ass world out there with a whole bunch of different places to distribute content and a whole bunch of different people paying for it. And so I think that's where their real opportunity comes because, I mean, look at the backlash with the UFC going back to Manchester and, even Tom Aspinall is saying, man, I don't want this thing to happen at 5 in the morning. I don't think that's great for everybody here. And we've talked about how wild it is that there's fans in these other places that have to watch it in these weird times. And so I think there's a real opportunity for them to make some success. So Chris Cyborg, Larissa Pacheco news in there, Cedric Doumbé, Anthony Pettis possibility, which would be a hell of a fight. Of course, Cedric's got to get through Jaleel Willis first, which is certainly no easy task, but him versus Showtime would be great. So appreciate Peter Murray's time there. It's always great to get caught up. And, boy, it's funny the timing of that. They're launching PFL MENA, and it's just as – the UFC makes the announcements that they're expanding the partnership with Saudi Arabia as well, which, we've
Riyadh
said.
Season's throwing that mad money around, dude.
By the way, is Riyadh Season just all year long? Is that
apparently?
I don't understand. I thought it was I thought it was
like in the summer.
I thought it was like Ramadan or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a time, but apparently Riyadh Season is just like
it's like a mood. It's like a mood.
Riyadh
Season, like, bro, it's
how you feeling, baby?
Well,
Riyadh
season, dog. Like you feel
we
like
going out
some
tonight,
money?
son. It's Riyadh Season tonight.
Bring your wallet, son. I mean, when you look at, I just pulled up the wiki and it talks about part of the investment fund. There was like $100 million injection of money into to help create this thing. So I guarantee every major organization is like, can I get a piece of that pie?
Yep.
What's great about this particular card, when you're talking about this MENA card, it's all athletes from over in that region. They're not like, oh, hey, bring famous stars over here. I really think they're embracing the fact that they want to highlight their athletes, get their athletes, build them up, and build their own stars from within, which I think is great. I mean, it's going to be an incredible platform. And, man, so many eyes are looking over there at all these different sports. You got boxing. I'm not sure what the final deals with the whole power slap shit is with that or whatever. But I know Dana's probably happy to bring the very first power slap over in Saudi Arabia. But it's cool, man. If there's money to keep the sport going and it's growing things, I'm all for it.
I am too.
I'm here for it. So I'm not rushing to go to any of the events because that's some serious long flights. And, with countries that don't like alcohol, I just don't know. Not that I'm really drinking much, but I'm like, part of why I want to go.
I like the ability to have a drink.
If we're going to go celebrate bringing a new place, like, it'd be really cool at night to kind of toast with a beer or something.
It's Riyadh season. Can we have a little?
It's Riyadh season. Hey. It's a mood.
No, it's what, listen, when they first started talking about the Champions League of MMA, now obviously I'm a big soccer fan, and I know how big Champions League is and what that means. And, I thought, well, that's pretty easy to say. That's, that's like somebody saying, well, we're the NFL. Well, like, bro, do you realize how big you're talking about? But it is going to be cool. I mean, when you at least talk about, like, the promotion and relegation and opportunity to control your own destiny that you have in, like, European football, European soccer, it is going to be pretty cool the first time you see somebody that, like, makes their way up from the regional stage, wins that tournament to get into the global season, then wins the million in the global. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's going to be a hell of a story of homegrown talent, kind of making it to that next level. So
you're talking about the Champions League. They just better be lucky they don't have to face my Columbus Crew, because my Columbus Crew be smashing dudes.
Columbus
right
Crew be tearing things
now.
up
Tearing
right now.
Shit up. They're going to be in the CONCACAF final that's coming up.
Yep.
I watched the semifinal that happened down there, and down like games in Mexico. They don't play down in Mexico.
No.
Like if you are the traveling team, it is something to go into that area and do it. So again, the final is going to be in Mexico as well. So I'm just like, wow, it's going to be interesting. But it's so funny because like everybody was always like MLS this like it's like the wee little league over here, and I think the people in the Premier League are just like ha 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 ha.
Of course.
Americans, you got all of our retiring guys. But now I feel like our teams are getting a lot better, and I love the fact that my hometown has a team that's badass.
Well, we're starting to export more Americans over to Europe, and so there are more people playing at the European level. And
getting that European money.
That's it. And MLS is supposed to be basically combining with the Mexican League soon, to where they're like not only will they have like these CONCACAF Champions League, but they'll actually have leagues where they're playing against each other.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a cool idea. The one other thing I did want to say about Saudi Arabia and the UFC, I think it's weird that they're. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think it's weird that they are the presenting sponsor of the Mexican Independence Day card.
Are they really?
That's part of the deal. You see,
well, I imagine to put on the Sphere. That's the Sphere show.
That's the Sphere show.
Was a huge investment.
Yes.
A huge dollar amount. But honestly, when you look at some of the technological, like the promos and some of the stuff that the Riyadh season people put out, it's fantastic.
Well, I'm sure.
So
I'm sure the Saudi Arabian they want to have the Sphere.
They want to see their banners up on the Sphere, like as a giant advertising
Isn't that
thing.
going to be kind of weird? It's Mexican independent, and I'm not even saying anything specific about Saudi Arabia. It's just like a country is sponsoring another country's Independence Day event. Like,
well,
what?
yeah, it is. But even
that one struck me as weird.
Well, that's what. Well, I feel like even the first time that they did they wanted to do an event around like the whole Mexican independence, people were just like, "This is silly. Like, you're not like, what are you, UFC? You have nothing to do with Mexico. Whatever. Blah blah blah." At this point, maybe they're just like, who knows? But I see it as. One, I didn't even think about how the giant billboard space, like they would love to see their stuff on the outside
100%.
of the Sphere doing everything. But in terms of like leveraging the UFC's production team and what they're able to do with the money and the stuff that the Riyadh season people have been putting out, some of their promos, that promo for Ngannou and Joshua, the one that was like the whole video game, whatever, where it was going through the streets and it was like going between animation, was fantastic.
Super cool.
I'm sure that cost a boatload of money. So in terms of what the promotion leading up into that Sphere show, if they can offset some of those costs, I guarantee Dana and them was like, yes, please.
Let's do it.
Because I think the amount of money it costs to do those things, it was probably so astronomical that they're thinking like, it's one thing because we talked about putting a show on the Sphere. If you're doing a run, it makes sense to put all the extra dollar values when you're doing a run because the tickets are so expensive.
Right.
But for a one-off, that's a huge, like they would never, I don't think they would ever make the money back in ticket sales.
They will lose money on this event.
Right. Unless you have somebody else foot most of the bill.
So true.
So it's kind of smart, but I can only imagine what the tickets are. When Fish just played there, like some of the ticket prices, like the boxes which had like 15 seats were like, one of them was like 45,000. The other one was like 35,000.
That's crazy.
I was like, that's ridiculous.
And you just ultimately couldn't decide which one you wanted, so you didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, so I didn't. I just opted for the $30 web stream. And it was fantastic.
You know what's crazy? So I was just thinking about this, and I don't think it's a fair question to ask, and so I don't even think I should ask it this way. But because I was going to ask you, like, okay, let's say MMA Junkie hypothetical tells you, man, we got this weird staffing issue in Vegas. We don't need you to work the camera for one event, so we just want you to sit inside for either UFC 303 McGregor versus Chandler or UFC 306 at the Sphere. Which one would you choose?
Easy.
Sphere, right? I know, and it's
100%.
And I say it's not fair to ask
100%.
because I don't want to say that, like, because when it comes Conor McGregor fight week, like, bro, there's nothing like a Conor McGregor fight week, and like I can't wait. And when Conor is making that walk, regardless of whether it's 100% Conor or 50% Conor, at least before that first bell sounds and we see the first exchange, it's Conor fucking McGregor. You know, it's going to be amazing. But, yeah, like, I almost feel like I think, like I said, I think it's kind of unfair to say
the one-off,
the Sphere. I'm more
that screen
just
and then the graphics shit.
It'll be the most unique event of all time.
It would be absolutely mind-blowing just to see what they're able to wrap around and do whatever. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised for the Conor one if they tried. Remember when was it Conor and who they actually did the walk-off with the musicians? They had a walk-in. Mendez. What fight was that?
UFC 189?
Yeah, it was Mendez. But yeah, I mean, like, I wonder, did Sinead O'Connor pass this last year?
Yeah.
I wonder if I have a feeling that they're going to do some big tribute, like, and if it wouldn't be awkward to like play, like have her, like do some sort of thing. But they probably would have to clear that to him so that maybe if he wanted to do it. Maybe maybe that'd be a downer.
Dude, I heard a weird thing the other day. It was somebody, I can't remember the actress's name. It was on the Howard Stern show, and they were playing Nothing Compares to You, or they were talking about Nothing Compares to You, and she was saying the song makes her sad. I can't remember her name. She used to be married to one of the Black Crows. She's an actress. But anyway, she was saying, and she pointed this out, this is so randomly rabbit hole stuff, but it's so true. She was like, that song.
Kate Hudson?
Kate Hudson, that's it. She's like, it makes me sad because everybody who sang that song is gone, right? Because you had Prince that wrote it, Sinead O'Connor that became famous for it, and then Chris Cornell did that like amazing cover of it as well.
Oh,
like,
shit.
They're all gone.
That's awesome.
I was like, whoa,
she's a huge music person.
Yeah, apparently I think she's doing an album or something now. Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of haven't seen her in a while, but yeah, I did a quick search. But yeah, I forgot that she was married to the dude from Black Rose.
Yeah.
Just shows she has good taste. Yeah.
That was random.
You still listen to all the Howard Stern podcasts?
I listen to a lot of it. Yeah, I listen to a lot of it.
I remember, you were always like die hard, because I remember when I used to ride in your car, you always had like the Howard Stern podcast.
When I'm driving, I usually have it in, just like, I usually listen to that.
So you still have all the same people on it, like Robin? And that's awesome.
All of it, man. All of it. All right, listen, it is the UFC in St. Louis this week for UFC on ESPN 56. The main event, Derek Lewis, Rodrigo Nascimento. Clearly, we are Derek Lewis homers, always have been. You, of course, even to a higher degree than most. But we love Derek Lewis, man. How do you not?
He's got a great team.
He's a great team, but he is a slight favorite in this. Rodrigo Nascimento, not a huge underdog here. I think when most people saw this fight announcement, they were like, "What? Why is that fight happening?" But man, I do worry. This is another one of those.
This is a dangerous,
right?
This is a dangerous fight. If people think that they just only know Derek's name, they don't really know who this Nascimento cat is, and they're like, "Oh, this is obviously a fight set up so that Derek will look good." This is a fight that Derek could look really bad in, like if Derek tries to go out and do some silly, like crazy spinning back clicks to start the fight and he gets caught, it could be very, very dangerous. Luckily, Derek can take a punch, but Nascimento's got some great power, man, and he's good if he gets him onto the ground. I mean, it's going to be in his favor if he's able to get on top of Derek if he gets him onto the ground. So hopefully Derek keeps it staying and keeps it on his hands. I trust Derek in his hands. I trust that if he does what we know Derek can do, Derek can easily put his lights out, but Nascimento's the real deal, man. This is a dangerous fight. This fight was set up so that he can make a name and he can work his way into the top 10.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I feel like Derek Lewis always has the ability to win a fight, right? Like I mean, we've seen the guy losing every second of a fight and then win.
And then get at that last moment. Yep.
Because he has one shot. And I think that might be a situation where he has to weather a storm here, right? If you look inside the stats in this, first of all, this is funny. Look, the UFC, they do a good job of providing stat packs and everything for the media, but Rodrigo Nascimento is tied for the longest win streak in the UFC's heavyweight division, which is an amazing stat, right? Except it's three. It's three. You know what I mean? like, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't want to take anything away from him, but it's like, it's 3 wins. You know what I mean? Which I get it in heavyweight, but I do like the one that I think is telling is the fact that he's got the 8th highest strike rate among UFC heavyweights. Yeah. But he's active. That's the thing is he's active, and you touched on
and he's getting better.
He's got a I would give him the superior grappling game.
100%.
And we know that Derek Lewis sometimes is incredibly inactive, but he has the ability that he only needs to land one. So
that's it.
But I think this is a competitive fight.
And he's gotten better when he gets on the ground. It's just he has that explosiveness that if he can kind of just get it together and push a guy off him. He has that explosive strength, but that wears out as the fight goes on, and if he's constantly on his back and he's constantly getting wore down, he's going to be eating elbows, he's going to be eating punches, and then he might just get complacent, and then he has the potential of getting caught. I mean, I think when people look at, Nascimento, and you look at, some of the guys that he's won, and they're no slouches. Dontel Mays, Ilir Latifi, Tanner Bozer, all good guys. But then you look back and you say, oh, well, but he lost to Chris Daukaus. And somebody's like, well, I think if Derek fought Chris Daukaus, Derek Lewis would smoke him, But then he somehow loses. I mean, it's one of those things when you got big guys, you catch a punch, you could lose the fight.
Yep.
That's a heavyweight division to a T. But Nascimento's came a long way since then. That was back in 2020.
Yep.
So I mean, a lot has happened. He's got a lot of experience. So hopefully.
Also worth noting that's the only loss of his career as well.
That's crazy. I mean, Derek tends to shine in some of these big events, but he also realized that there's always a lot of eyeballs and a lot of pressure. And we've heard from him in the past, when some of that pressure sort of got on him, all the extra media and all the extra stuff that he has to do to carry an event, and sometimes it's kind of weighed him down. He hasn't went in there maybe a little bit lighter than if he was, say, like the co-main. And he said before, I don't care when I fight.
Yeah.
Put me on like the first fight. Right. Just get in there and get out, not have to do all the extra media stuff. So I hope he goes in there and he's got a clear head and he just keeps it fun, keeps it lighthearted, and hopefully all the extra stuff hasn't done too much, because if he just goes out there and does what he does best and just throws hand and keeps the fight standing, I'm confident he can get it, but it's no guarantee in this division, and that this Nascimento's the real deal, man. He's legit. I would hate to see Derek lose, but I mean, there's the possibility he can. I mean, like Nascimento's he's dangerous.
Yep.
He's dangerous. The people just don't know him, and maybe that's why you said the odds are still pretty close.
Derek Lewis is just a slight favorite. Yeah. So I think Rodrigo Nascimento, the odds makers gave him, I think, more respect than the public probably does. Yeah, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Those odds makers know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Sometimes it's so crazy. It's like, how are you doing it? They're so good sometimes.
I know you picked Derek. There's no way you didn't pick
Derek. I had to homer on that one. I mean, like it wasn't even an option. But I mean, I think even without, when I think with my head, obviously my heart's leaning Derek. But even my head, I know he can get it done if he does what we know he can do. He just got it. He has to just stay in the moment, stay focused. Don't get too cutesy in there, because the opponent's way too dangerous to do something cutesy and then get caught.
100%.
Don't go out there and try to do it like a spinning back fist, like as for your first strike and get caught. Like, don't do that.
Because he'll drive through you and take you to the ground.
That's it. And then that's it.
Some other interesting matchups on here. Again, this is one of those just kind of, I think, some fun fights on there. It should be entertaining. Not a whole lot of – we're not going to know any number one contenders. We're not going to book any title fights after this.
Dude, the co-main's legit.
Joaquin Buckley and Nursultan Razubov. Joaquin Buckley, of course, we know how he got on this card. He came in. He asked Dana at the press conference. Yep. I mean, great move there. He got on it.
100%.
But, man, do you think he was expecting to get Nursultan Razubov as the opponent?
I'm sure he was happy just to get on the card, but it's a terrible matchup for him. Nursultan is a beast, dude. This kid, I mean, he's incredible.
Yep.
He's incredible. He's future champ material. Dude is badass, man. He really, really is. He's really, really good. That's a tough matchup.
I know. He's Joaquin Buckley gets into the rankings, and now he's fighting an unranked opponent that, is unheralded. Again, somebody that the public probably doesn't really know, but is going to be a dangerous fight there.
This will be the fight to put him on the map.
100%. Alonzo Minifield, Carlos Ulberg should certainly be fireworks. How about? Did you see the new look for Diego Ferreira with the hair? When did that get? I don't know when he grew that out, but I'm liking it, Diego Ferreira.
I think he's went through phases where I think there's been times when it's been longer, and then there's times it's gone short. Because on Tapology, they still got the short locks.
Oh no, he's got like some like Sean O'Malley. I mean, not the colors not the colors, but he's got
them curls,
the long curls there against Metal Shrabetsky. That's a tough fight for him.
That's a tough fight.
I am really intrigued. I'm not gonna lie, by Alex Caceres and Sean Woodson.
Yeah.
Two of the most interesting styles, right? Because Alex Caceres, the smooth, flowy, we love Bruce Leroy, and then Sean Woodson, the height, the jab. I really like that fight. And the main card opener, Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Robelis Despaigne. I mean, for as long as that one lasts, that should be a lot of fun. I don't know how long it will last.
Yeah.
but that should be good. Chase Hooper's on there against Vyacheslav Borshev. That should be a fun fight. Terrence McKinney is back. Tabitha Ricci and Tisha Pennington in a big fight there. Tisha Pennington returning and getting a very tough Tabitha Ricci in there as well. I love St. Louis's own Charles Johnson against Jake Hadley. That's a good fight there. J.J. Aldridge against Veronica Hardy. I mean, dude, there's some good. Again, this is another one of those that if you got stuff to do on Saturday or whatever, and you can't catch it live or whatever, but if you're tuning in, I don't know, man. Again, we're not going to get any new number one contenders. We're not going to get any title fights booked, as I said. So maybe the stakes aren't there, but I just look at the matchups and it looks like it feels like it's going to be a fun fight.
I think it's going to be a great card.
Yeah.
I think it's a great card. A lot of good fights. Yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, no contenders, but these are all people that are trying to work into that top 10, top 15, or just to get their names put on there and show they're still relevant. Some really, really good fights on this one.
I think it should be a lot of fun.
Really, really good fights.
I've got my son's birthday party early in the day.
It's on ESPN Plus, dog. I love it. Just sit on the couch. I don't have to work either since we're not there, so I'm literally just going to be able to watch it.
Look at this,
dude. I'm all about it. I'm all about this card. I am so about this card.
Sit back, feet on the desk. Well, I'm going to be. Let's see. I got my son is doing a bowling birthday party. He's turning 12. Nice. He's turning 12 on Sunday, but we had to do the party on Saturday because don't forget, we said it. We'll say it again. Sunday is Mother's Day, so if you haven't got your mom a gift yet,
get off your ass and get your mom a card.
Get a card. Make sure you're at least ready to call her. Yes. That is Sunday, but so we decided to do a party on Saturday because again. I can't ask somebody to leave their mom and their family on Sunday.
I just put a card in the mail today for my mom.
There you go. So make sure you look out for that. So I'm going to do that birthday party with my son and then head home and watch the fights. And, of course, at that point, we'll do a little recap episode over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. A little and a half action over there.
A little recap.
A little recap. Look at little Brazil there. Yeah. I like that. Just rolling it through. Next week, we'll preview now. I think we had a in our administrative meeting ahead of time today.
Yes.
That was on the schedule. Obviously, Cold Coffee and I have extensive planning meetings. A lot of real business plans that we do together. I think what we decided to do is, and I have to ask him, but I think he's going to be okay with it. Is Simon Head. I'm working with Simon Head next week in Belgium, and obviously Simon is a good friend of the show. Just a good friend personally on the air and off the air. I'm getting in Thursday afternoon. I thought he was doing that as well, and so I thought him and I could get together on Thursday. He's actually not getting into Belgium until Friday morning, which is way later. Although we used to do Fridays, didn't we, way back in the day?
It's what we started.
We started on Fridays.
Started on Friday.
So it would be Friday, which is way later. It would be Friday morning because we'll be in Europe when we do it. So with the time change, it'd be Friday morning, probably like right after official weigh-ins or something like that. But I think we want to wait till Friday just so we can
Friday night,
throw Simon Head on there, man.
It makes so much more sense than either us trying to do a weird remote one or you just doing it solo. I think I think it's just a no-brainer.
I agree.
I think everybody would rather hear Simon, kind of catch up because I know he's got a bunch of doings going on right now. So it's been a while since we've had him on the podcast. So I think it's a no-brainer to kind of hold off. So that'll be Friday night.
So we'll do Friday night. So this weekend we'll have the and a half episode. And then if everybody that's just listens to the regular, so if you could just wait a little bit, we'll run a little bit late so that we can include our good friend Simon Head. I think that makes all the sense in the world. So
I think it'd be fun.
All right, listen, appreciate Peter Murray for the time. Hopefully, again, I'm going to try to get back to doing some interviews with the shows as well. I know you like to hear me and Cold Coffee talk, but I want to put some interviews on here as well because I enjoy doing those and appreciate the
every day with just us is Riyadh season.
It's Riyadh season,
yo. It's just a mood, yo.
So we appreciate everybody. Put your frosty beverages in the air. Give a shout out to Riyadh season. But more than anything, just know that we appreciate you. And thanks for listening.